I want to share something with you. We're going to be doing Matthew 22, the kingdom of heaven is like, and it's about the marriage supper. Friday evening we did the zodiac and the Bible, and we had revelations come forth. I have my crystal in here, and I also have a battery, and I don't think that that's really a good idea. So I'm going to let you hold that. Thank you. I mean, I don't know what I'm liable to be sent. What kind of charge is liable to fly out of here? You all right? Well, I'll heal her. Heal me, heal my hand. I got a little. We had last week. April was here, and she was sitting there, and I got a little excited. And I went over and I smacked her leg, and you don't realize you get. So don't sit in the front row whenever you come. They got a big guy in the front row, though, so I have to behave myself. But anyhow, Friday night we were teaching on the zodiac of the Bible, and we were teaching the constellation Aries, the ram. Okay. And things just started to explode here. And the reason I start this off is to show you this and to show you the relationship as we go into the scripture this morning. I had so many years said to myself, what is the need for this burnt offering business in the Bible? I mean, I don't want to open the Bible. What kind of a God is it that doesn't get excited unless he can smell chopped liver? Or something? Oh, this is a sweet-smelling offering. And burning up all of these animals. For what? Killing animals, burning up animals on the altar. And throughout the entire Old Testament, the big thing is you must have a burnt offering. God isn't happy unless there's a burnt offering. And as I studied this and as I meditated about this, it started to click. And then it's just as if God, because of the work that you've all done and what we've done here, just pulled the screen aside and said, I'll show you. When the sun, which is the fire, enters Aries and consumes the ram in its fire, spring comes. Did you hear? All things become new when there is a burnt offering, when the ram is consumed by the fire of the sun. Shh. You know what's so exciting about that? The chrism, that which is the Christ forced within you, when that fire is allowed to raise itself in the same way it does the sun, it will consume what the ancients called the pineal gland, Aries. Aries and the pineal gland are the same. And when the sun rises from within you and rises up to consume that which is the ram, the burnt offering has occurred, and spring will come to your life. All that has been dormant will blossom again. We broke the code. He allowed us to understand. You cannot have. You see, don't you remember? Behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. What's sin? Darkness. In December, as you're sitting here every day, it's darker and darker. There's less light. There's less light. And the days will not become long. And the sun will not allow to light our way. And new life will not come until there's a burnt offering, until the fiery sun consumes that which is the constellation Aries the ram. When the fire consumes the ram, when the burnt offering has occurred, then summer will come. Isn't that so? And all that it means that you have to do is allow that fire which is within you, instead of directing it outward, direct it upward. And when that fire reaches the altar, which is the pineal gland of the brain, it will consume the lamb. The burnt offering will have occurred, and then God will be pleased, and summer will burst forth in your life. And you know what? This isn't something that you believe or disbelieve. This is a scientific fact. You can watch it happen. There will be no new life on your trees until there's a burnt offering. There will be no new life in your lawn. There will be no new baby puppies or those animals. There will be no new things born until there's a burnt offering. Until the sun consumes Aries the ram, there will be no new life. But once it happens, then the world will explode in new color and new life. And as it is without, so it is with you. And you say, oh, I say, well, gee, how am I going to do this? I don't know. How am I going to make my son go? There was another part of that Friday night that was so meaningful because we got to the story of Abraham. Remember, he's had to sacrifice Isaac? And when he got to the mountaintop, what was there in the bush? The ram, Aries. Aries. And you know what it meant? It meant you don't have to do a thing. Abraham, you don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to sacrifice your son, which means your mind, your ego, because you can't. You're not capable of it. Forget about joining a monastery. Forget about putting a hood over your head. Forget about trying to give up this and give up that. Forget about trying to be holy. There's nothing that you can do. All you have to be willing to do is what Abraham did. Go to the mountain. Enter that place in meditation. And when you get to the mountain, you'll find out that everything that you need is there provided for you. The ram has been provided. The fire has been provided. Then all you have to do is be willing to go to the mountain. All you have to do is be willing to come here. All you have to do is be willing to meditate. And when you raise yourself to the mountain, everything is provided for you. But remember something. There will be no springtime in your life. There will be no summer in your life until the ram is consumed by the fire. Until there's a burnt offering, there will be no spring in your life. There can't be. You could sit here from now and you can argue about it, you can read about it, you can study about it, you can call me names, but I can tell you one thing right now. There will be no summer of 91 until there's a burnt offering. Do you understand what I said? There will be no spring. There will be no leaves back on the trees until the fire of the sun consumes the ram. A burnt offering. And do you know what? I have studied every metaphysical teacher. I have looked at them all. I've looked at Hotima. I've looked at Fox. I've looked at everybody. Nobody knows it but you. But is that amazing? You broke the code. God's code. The burnt offering is nothing more than the sun entering into Aries. And do you know what it says to you? Listen to what it says to you. You cannot understand the Bible unless you understand the zodiac. You can't. That whole burnt offering, that marriage of the Lamb, the sacrifice of the Lamb is the basis of all fundamental Judaism and Christianity, and it all comes from the zodiac. And it was written in the stars thousands, millions of years before it was ever written on a piece of paper. And the things that religion tells you to stay away from are the things that will reveal to you God's purpose. And that's why it's so exciting when we get here on Friday night. There's a lot more, tremendous number of empty seats. When you simply understand that, and you understand that all you are required to do is meditate, raise yourself to the mountain, and God will do the rest. He'll provide the ram. And many times we sit in the coldness of our lives and in the winter of our lives and say, won't this ever end? It's one problem after the other. It's one storm after the other. It's one storm after the other. One storm, but the storms of the winter of your life will not abate. There will not be a thaw. There will not be new grass. There will not be new flowers until there is a burnt offering, until you allow that which is the Son of Man and the fire to raise itself up and consume the lamb, which is the pineal. When that occurs, then summer will come to your life. As it is without, so it is within. That's the wedding of the Lamb. When the sun intercourses with when Aries is intercoursed by the sun, that's the marriage of the Lamb. And that's when all the beautiful things happen. Did everybody, I know you're not going to raise your hand, so I don't know what the heck you're talking about. But if you don't, would you come up later? Because I want you to know this. I want you to understand how important it is for you. And I want you to understand it is something that you can tell any quote-unquote born-again person who has a problem with what goes on here or what is said here. You can go to anybody and tell them that, and you can show them that and say to them, you show me how it is possible for summer, spring, for new life to happen through this winter unless the sun enters Aries. Show me how it's possible. It can't happen. And in the same way, I can say, show me how it's possible for that newness to come to your life until the sun enters the pineal. It can't happen. Okay? That is heavy stuff. That is heavy stuff. And it's beautiful. And I get so, thrilled now that we are being allowed to hear these things and to understand these things. And when you are a part of understanding something as magnificent as this, which very few people in the world have ever known. When you know this, then you are on the verge of God taking you totally into his confidence and revealing all things to you. It's not far away, and it's going to happen. Because remember, Uranus, the son of heaven, is making his way back, and he's going to reclaim his bride, and no one's going to stop him. And it says in Matthew 22, verse 1, and Jesus answered and spoke parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king which made a marriage for his son. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Okay? Now the point is, the kingdom of heaven is like that. This is what we're going to learn about. We're going to learn what the kingdom of heaven's like. But I want to bring it back into a perspective of where you can deal with it, where it can mean something for you. Go to page 77 in those little Bibles. The rest of you go to the book of Luke. 77 in the little Bibles. The rest of you go to the book of Luke. Now, God's kingdom, okay, is the kingdom of heaven. And look what it says in Luke 17. Now go to verse 21. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And so what Jesus is saying the kingdom of heaven is like, he's saying this is what it's like inside of your consciousness. This is what your relationship inside with what we call God is all about. This is how your mind works. This is how your brain works. Don't you understand? You've had to go to college, you've had to go to school, you've had to do this, you've had to do that, you had to get a job, you had to do what the government said, you had to do what the tax people said, you had to do what your mommy said, you had to do what your daddy said. Jesus Christ is saying right now that this kingdom is within you, and your simple obedience to go up there will burst forth a life for you beyond your wildest dreams, and all you have to do to get it is sit on the floor. So, just sit down and be quiet and listen to the spheres of the celestial heavens within you, and your whole thing will change. What is so hard about that? And do you know why you don't come here? You know why people don't come here? They're afraid to come here. And it's not because they don't want this. It's not because they don't want to find who they really are. It's not that they don't want to find what their place is, but they are afraid to come here because they said, don't get involved. They said, don't get involved with that stuff. They, the warriors, the flag wavers with the bomb in the right hand and the flag in the left hand. Oh, they're on television now. Saddam Hussein's going to only know one thing, and we got to turn the guns loose, and we got to attack because that's the only word he knows. Before you think that way, go back and look in those little rooms where our children are playing with their little toys and understand. Just picture them as little Iraqi children playing with their little toys. And just picture that those children, if they're little Iraqi children over there, are going to be blown to bits and set on fire by our warriors. I say, it's intolerable even to think of it. You want to get Saddam Hussein and Mr. Bush into a ring with a baseball bat and beat each other's brains out? Go ahead. Don't involve the children and the old people. That's not God's way of thinking. And then you go to church and you have the American flag in your church and you'll stand up and sing Star Spangled Banner and all of this stuff. You can't do that when you're in allegiance with God, because when you're in allegiance with God, you've got to be just as concerned as that the Iraqi boys in the army get home to their moms and dads as you are that the American boys get home to their moms and dads. See? That's the way it is. You've seen the old way, and you've seen nothing but fighting and screaming and shouting and killing. And so the kingdom of heaven, this is saying in Matthew 22, verse 1, what is it like within you? It's like a certain king which made a marriage for his son. A certain king. Who's the king? The king is your higher self. The king is that higher part of your mind. But now you are opening yourself to. That's the king. And the king has made a marriage for his son. In other words, that part of you, the Son of Man. Look here, right here in the center of your abdomen is a place called the solar plexus. Let me show you what this is. As I've told you about this before, but briefly. From the brain is the colostrum comes the fluid. The fluid comes down into the body and fills your whole body. It enters the pituitary and becomes a white milky substance. Enters the pineal and becomes a golden yellow fluid. That's what the ancient says, I will take you from a land of bondage, meaning the lower flesh, up to a land flowing with milk and honey, the marriage of the pineal and the pituitary. That chrism moves down through the entire body into the solar plexus, becomes the source of life. Okay? That chrism, that oil, that word chrism means Christ. Christ is the gift. Christ comes down from the colostrum, the gift of life. Colostrum is that in the brain where the mother breastfeeds her baby. The milk that comes from the breast is called colostrum. And the ancients said this was a gift of life. It comes from the colostrum. So they shortened it and it became the holy gift of the colostrum. And it became Holy Claus. It then became St. Claus and wound up with that you are now about to expand yourself on Santa Claus. He comes down from the North Pole. That's what it is. And so here, what is the gift? It's Christ. And when the chrism forms down into the solar plexus, creates life. And I'm not a celibate. I guess you know that. I don't believe in that. I couldn't last very long. But a couple of days before meditation, a day before meditation isn't too much to put a little oil in the lamp. You see? And when then the Kundalini energies move that oil upward, you are then resurrecting the Christ. Don't you see? Chrism is rising. Christ is rising. The holy oil is rising, and it becomes the fire that lights the pineal, lights the lamp. The Son of God returns up to the Father. Christ returns up to the Father. The chrism. Chrism means Christ. And then when that light occurs, it's just like the sun after it intersects and the burnt offering with Aries. It sits at the right hand in the eastern sky, and summer comes, and it sits at the right hemisphere of your brain. So when you take, instead of allowing, then you save a little bit for the bridegroom, you don't allow the fire to spill outward. You redirect the fire upwards. You are allowing that which is the resurrected Christ to raise himself back up to the Father's house. And that's what all of this is about. And that colostrum, then, that holy place, which secretes all of this fluid, see, throughout your entire body, is the source of the sun rising back up to the pineal, the sun rising back up to Aries. It's all as it is within. So the king is the higher self, which receives back that which is the chrism. The Son of Man. It says he made a marriage for his son. That is the soul within you. Jesus Christ was the Son of Man who became the Son of God by the crucifixion. And the crucifixion happens when you are willing to meditate and crucify the five senses. Sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing. So you say you all, I don't need to come out. Folks, honest to God, I don't tell you to come here because, need to fill seats. When we get here in meditation, I don't even know who's here. The lights are off. People are on the floor, standing upside down all over. I don't know what the heck goes on. I am telling you here because there are tremendous vibrations that emanate out of this place. Peace vibrations, healing vibrations, and you should be in the midst of it. You should be in the midst of it. Because what is necessary to stop wars, what is necessary to change the ecology and all of these things are the positive vibrations coming out of the people who are reaching up to God. And that's why you're seeing changes. Okay? So the marriage for the Son, then, is that part of you which is reaching up. That's you. Okay? That's the lower self. Which comes now to be Son of God. Son of Man, crucified to become Son of God. So the Son of Man. Look, let me show you this. Go to page 505. What I wanted to show you is that we're talking about right brain, left brain. All right? Page 505. For the rest of you, go to Psalm 80. Right brain, left brain. The right hand of the Father is the right hemisphere of the brain. That's where the God influence in your life comes from. Give you a perfect example. We sang a song this morning, We Shall Overcome, by Pete Seeger. In my old days of being a great American, I stood with the flag and just, this guy was a no-good communist, rabble-rousing. Now I'm a big fan. I love him. I would just be thrilled to have Pete Seeger come here. Because he was all the time, I was convinced, I was told by the people on television or the people in these groups or the politicians, oh, he's a communist sympathizer. So I said, oh, he must be because they said so. Oh, anybody that wants the Hudson River cleaned up must be a communist. You know, anybody that doesn't want garbage and all of that stuff, anybody that doesn't want people abused, and anybody that doesn't want corporations to take advantage of the workers must be a communist. So when I was looking I've been looking for weeks and weeks to find something by Pete Seeger, this thing, and I found it. Oh boy. And I was so thrilled. I got to write him and tell him he was singing at the song service. I don't know if he'll know what that means, but Psalm 80, verse 17. Let's find out where this comes from in our brain. Psalm 80, verse 17. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy, the man of thy right hand, upon the Son of Man whom you made strong for yourself. As you then gain in your meditation and begin to enter that which is the right side, you'll find that Son of Man becomes capable of becoming Son of God. Son of God. And so that's what this wedding is for, the Son of God. And remember, what you're looking at here is what you're going to see happen before the summer comes. You have the burnt offering, you know what that is, but it's also the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's what you're reading about here. And the marriage of the Lamb is when the sun in the sky intercourses with the constellation Aries. And then what happens? When that marriage is consummated, new things are born. The trees have new leaves. The bunnies have new, what do they call them? Baby bunnies? Little bunnies?
The rabbits have babies.
Don't you, what do they say? Now wait a minute. There are things. Every animals have, like dogs have puppies. Cats have kittens. Doing good. Deer have does. Fawns. So what do rabbits have? Bunnies. I mean, it really is. I mean, you've really come a long way, you know. I usually don't get a reaction, so, you know, to say rabbits have bunnies is really great. But here we have the Son of God is Jesus Christ, who is your own true self. Now, you're looking within yourself for this kingdom of heaven, okay? What you're going to see, as I said, when the sun intercourses with the ram, Aries, summertime comes. In other words, let's put it this way. When you are married, listen to me very carefully. I think this will be very enlightening to a lot of you here. When you are married, okay, you may go on a honeymoon. You know, Joan and I went on a honeymoon to Bermuda. I don't want to tell you how long ago it was, but the plane had propellers on it. Well, we did, many years ago. Now, let me just tell you what happens. Not particularly, I'll just tell you. When you are married, whoa, when you are married, a physical act takes place between the male and the female. It's called sexual intercourse. When that sexual intercourse happens, there may be a baby. In other words, when the intercourse takes place, there is a new life born. That can happen. I'm telling you that because what I'm trying to explain to you is as it is out, so it is within. Okay? When the male intercourses with the female, there can be new life born. In this particular instance, the risen son becomes the male, intercoursing with the lamb, female. Okay? And when that occurs, what happens? New life. Flowers, where there were no flowers. Leaves, where there were no leaves. And little things start to have babies where there were no babies. So that birth cannot occur unless there is the marriage of the Lamb. That's what this is about. Now, in the same way, inside of you, there is the male and the female. And when you raise that, which is the Christ chrism male, to intercourse with the pineal gland female, there is then new life, new birth, new understanding. In various ways, it can be called male, female. I mean, in some areas of the Egyptian pyramids, the female is the Budai and the male is the Atma, and it can be switched around. It depends on what kind of allegory or parable you're studying. In this particular case, you're looking at the sun intercoursing with the ram, the male intercoursing with the female. You have summertime comes, all new life. But that has to happen within you, see? And of course, you can't do that. You're not capable of doing it. You can't study about it. People go studying. They go studying. They go to classes to learn how to do this. They study how to do this. You can't. That's the Abraham story. You go to the mountain. You can't do it. Remember? Abraham lifts his... Do you honestly think that God would have you Abraham take his son up, tie him to a tree, and put a knife in his throat and say, look, son, this is religion. It's a church I go to that does this, you know? Don't get... It's going to do a lot of good for me, you know? And my people. What's it going to do for him? He's going to get his throat cut by his father. Now, if that really happened, can you imagine this kid for the rest of his life? He's a basket case. Hi, this is my son Isaac. We just come down from the mountain. How could you get over that? What if your father took you, tied you to a tree and stuck a knife in your throat and said, look, I got to do it for my church? So that's ridiculous. It's allegorical. It's mythology. It's what it is. And the Bible says it is. Galatians 4:24 says which things are an allegory. And what it is saying is there's nothing you need to do. All you have to do is be willing for that sacrifice to occur. Then when you get to the mountain of meditation, everything is there. Look, Abraham, look what's there. The ram caught in the bush. See? The bush is where the ram was caught. The bush is where Moses saw the fire. That's the center of your consciousness. Caught right there. Right smack there. Right in the middle of your meditation. Right in the middle of your consciousness is everything you need. But you've got to be willing to go, and there's a lot of you who aren't willing. See? There's a lot of you who aren't willing. You want to work this out yourself. It's like a guy that's on death row. The guy comes down and says, hey, here it is, man. You're pardoned. You're a free man. Look, you were going to have 24 hours and you're going to be executed, but I got your pardon. You can walk out. And he turns around and says, nah, I'm going to work this out myself. That's the same thing. It's the same thing. I'm going to figure this out myself. You got 24 hours to go. You've got it. There it is. All you've got to do is trust this Christ and enter into the mountain and sit in meditation. The ram will be provided. Everything will be done for you, but you've got to be willing to go to the mountain. Or you can try to work your way out of this mess. You're not going to get there. Okay? So, where then is this Christ? See, we're finding out where is he. Remember I told you about the chrism. The chrism is in your body. The chrism is in your body. That's what comes down from the colostrum. Look at John 14 on page 104. John 14, page 104 for the rest of you. Okay? And you're going to find out that Jesus Christ, his name symbolizes the chrism, the oil in your body, both male and female. Look at John 14, verse 20. In that day, you shall know that I am in my Father. That's the higher mind. You in me, within, and I in you. That's the chrism. Don't you understand? When I talk about abstaining the day before meditation or 2 days before meditation, let me give it to you. Maybe you'll be able to figure this out. Jesus is about to ascend. Okay? He's about to ascend to the Father. He's come out of the grave. When you come out of the grave, you come to meditation. When you're about to ascend, it's the day of meditation. Mary Magdalene stands in front of him. What does he say to her? Woman, don't touch me because I have not yet ascended to the Father. Do you hear what that means? Do you understand what that means? It means allow the oil in the lamp to raise itself up to the Father before you direct yourself to one another. One day I'm talking about, the day before. Just make sure that. Woman, don't touch me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. That means the chrism must remain, for the meditation is about to take place. Okay? Do you ever think you would understand this stuff? And what's so exciting about it, what is so exciting about this is that I just know in my heart that the universal, and can you believe this? In the middle of this town, in Forked River of all places, Vito's in the basement of Vito, we're telling these things. You say, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. Did it make any sense for Jesus and his 12 merry men? They didn't believe them either. Well, I mean, couldn't be this guy. I know his mother and his brother and his sisters. Who the heck does he think he is? The same thing. It's up to you. You can disbelieve what you're experiencing here, and the only way you can disbelieve it is out of the ego of your own mind and say, well, I just don't believe it, that's all. Or you can say, let me see. Let it be. Because he who has trusted us with such information in such an unveiling is about to give us everything. I know it. So when we die in the lower self than that Son of Man, and we do that by taking the 5 wounds of sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing, we crucify that, and it rises back up into the Father's house. When I die in the lower self, I no longer become me. Don't you understand? When you meditate and that energy starts to raise itself up to the pineal gland, you cease to be you. Al said something that was tremendous, and it's true. You are all Jesus Christ pretending to be somebody else. And my job is to expose you for who you really are. See? And once you're able to take this mask off, and that mask that you're wearing, the exercises that you go through is because you've been conditioned. You've been conditioned by your parents. You've been conditioned by the society. You've been conditioned. And you wear your mask. You know how do we wear a mask? Look at how we wear a mask. We're sitting in a plane. We're talking to the guy next to us. Yeah, well, I worked on so-and-so, and I don't know. And the guy's asking you a question. You're getting a little annoyed with him asking you questions and talking to you. And I just want to read my book. The stewardess comes down and says to the guy sitting next to you, would you have some more coffee, Senator Johnson? Senator Johnson? Yeah, hi. How are you? Yeah, you know, I voted for you. I voted for you. And all the mask goes on. We put a new mask on because we change our whole personality. We're about to gain something, maybe. We'll have an in with this guy. We want to put a fence up in our backyard. Now we know somebody in Washington who can override. See, we know Senator Johnson. So we're going to change our whole attitude. We're going to be very interested. Before we wanted him to shut up. Now, oh, talk to me, Senator Johnson. I'm very interested in what you have to say. We close our book. We put it away because we want to listen to the senator. We put our mask on. We do exactly the way the system says. Depends who you're talking to. Do you ever go to somebody and they're talking to them and you think they're important and you wanted to talk to them and they're looking over your shoulder to see if anybody else is there to talk to besides you? Yeah, you know, and they always say, and you say, gee, you know what happened to me? I had this. Yeah, that's great. That is really great. Yes, yes, yes. It's been so good talking. Yeah, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much. Yes. And that's what they do. They're just not interested. They're playing the game. Everybody's always trying to find somebody a little more important to talk to, see, than you. See? So they'll look. And they'll look around and see who's coming in the door. See who's more important than you to talk to. We play our game. You've been taught that. See, you taught that by your parents, and they were taught by their parents. You know, always make a way. You know, you got to get them with the right people. You know, you're not the right people, so they look for somebody else. Well, you're talking and you're pouring out your, oh, you know, oh, I had to do this and I had to do that. That's the way it is. You're conditioned, so you put on the mask. So when you meditate, the whole thing changes. Look at page 176 in your little Bible. I won't keep you too much longer. Page 176 in your little Bibles. The rest of you, Galatians 2. Galatians 2 and verse 20. I am crucified with Christ. That means meditating the 5 senses. Nonetheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. In other words, I don't. How do you think I get this information? Where do you think it comes from? I don't even understand it. Why all of a sudden do I know? And doesn't it make sense when we talked about the burnt offering? That's why God is pleased with an animal burning up. It has nothing to do with an animal. It has to do with the ram. The Son entering the ram and all new life comes. Why do we know this? Why? Look at you sitting here. You know that. Why? What kind of a special dispensation did we get? Or what kind of a special blessing, whatever you want to call it? It's because I live, yes, but not I. Christ lives. Is it that the mind of Christ that I have and the mind of Christ that you have now are in sync, in harmony, and we're unraveling all of these things so that we can live and explain things to people? But look, you're in 1 Corinthians. Let's go to 1 Corinthians, page 156, 20 pages back. 1 Corinthians, chapter 2, and verse 16. For who hath known the mind of the Lord? But we have the mind of Christ. That's why you know these things. And I'll give you one more thing and then we're done. Page 110. How do you get the mind of Christ? How do you find all of this information? Page 110, go to John chapter 21. Okay? John chapter 21, page 110 in your little Bibles. And you'll see how you get this information. How do you get the understanding? How am I able to find out about this? How am I able to find out and share with you about these things? What did Jesus say? John 21, verse 6. Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and you shall find. Now, remember I told you, and we're done? Remember I told you how they figure out that the number 9 is the number of human consciousness, divine consciousness? You know, 666, the beast. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18 equals 9. 144,000 going to heaven. 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9. And it goes on in the Bible, and I'll show you that another time. But that's how they use numerology to tell you this is a subject of consciousness. Jesus says, cast your net to the right side. Yes? What? Wait a minute. Don't think about the microphone.
The other day, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but isn't it strange that women are pregnant for 9 months?
No, that's it. That's why.
I know, but I mean, everything you're saying is 999.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's human spirit. You're exactly right. Why not? It could have been designed so you could be pregnant for 17 months. No, but you're exactly right. And that's why all of these things happen the way they do. But now let me show you something now, and we'll finish here. You cast your net to the right side, the number 9. Let's go to John 21, right where you are. You don't have to turn the page. Go to verse 11. Simon Peter went up, drew the net to land full of great fish. And how many fish did they catch? 153. 1 plus 5 plus 3 equals, that's consciousness. Cast your net to the right side and you will find. But I'm not saying you're going to find fish, fish. You're going to find wisdom. You're going to find understanding. Well, we learned a lot this morning. I mean, really some good stuff. Really some sensational stuff. And you know what's so good about it? It's provable. You know? You can just go to say, show me how summer can come if there isn't a burnt offering. If the fire doesn't go into the ram, how can it happen? Nobody can argue a bit, can they? Because it's true. And then you begin to tell them about the fire inside that has to consume the ram, and summer will come. Well, okay.